What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. In this episode, I talk to y'all about a wild day of collaboration in Los Angeles. We react to a legendary Bruce Lee interview. I answer some of your questions, react to a fan freestyle, react to my own freestyle, but make sure you stay till the end for a special guest.
This is for my Flow State. Add it, yeah. Y'all know we back at it. Ain't it crazy how the mind works magic? We gon' show you the method behind the madness, cause this is for my Flow State.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. I'm very excited, as always, to be back in the mix for another solo episode. But of course, we got my man Sam up in the Flow Station holding it down. What's going on, Sam?
Yes, sir. Chilling, man. Chilling.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, yeah, man. I'm thinking back on this past week. We had a pretty crazy day recently.
Hell yeah. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, so I want to bring all of the listeners and viewers in on this pretty cool day we had recently, earlier this week. It was a twofer. So first up in the morning, I had the opportunity to freestyle for Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr., who is Ice Cube's son. And that was as a promotion for Den of Thieves 2 Pantera, which is coming out soon. But yeah, it was awesome to have another opportunity to, promote a movie with my freestyling. And this is something I've done in the past. Obviously, I promoted the Transformers movie and got to rap for Toby and Wigway. I got to rap for Ice Cube himself when promoting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And so that was really cool to, having freestyled for Ice Cube to then have the opportunity to freestyle for O'Shea Jackson Jr. For this new Den of Thieves movie was pretty special. And it was fun, man.
Yeah, they were really cool. And that movie, I just looked up, it comes out January 10th, actually. So it'll be a couple weeks after this
Oh, okay.
episode.
Oh, amazing. Okay, cool. So anyway, make sure you guys go check it out when it comes out.
For sure.
But yeah, man, it was an awesome moment. And they were both really cool. Both of them were really awesome. And it was funny. Gerard Butler was so stoked for the freestyling. And I found out later that they had showed him, they always show them in advance. They pitch them the ideas, hey, we were thinking of having this influencer come and do this, that, or the other. And so when they said, hey, we were thinking of having this guy, Harry Mack, come and get some words from you guys and do a freestyle, apparently Gerard Butler was like, oh, hell yes. That's amazing. I can say anything and he has to use it. And so he was already hip to what I do, which was really, really cool. And yeah, but both of them were just such good vibes, such good energy. They definitely challenged me with, especially Gerard Butler challenged me with the words. I mispronounced one of the words and had to get the little quick correction on the fly. But luckily that always makes for one of those exciting comeback moments. But all in all, it was just an amazing opportunity, man. I'm just so grateful that, this career and doing what I love to do puts me in rooms with people who are just incredibly inspiring and doing amazing things. And being able to collaborate with people who are successful even outside of the music industry. Although O'Shea Jackson Jr. is an MC as well and has some music out. But yeah, to be able to collaborate with actors and people in all different fields of entertainment is really, really fun. And it's kind of a trippy experience, though, I will say, because it's very hurry up and wait in the sense that you got to get there early, understandably, because there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of time to kind of sit around and get nervous, and be like, oh man, I hope it goes good. Do they even know who I am? I never really know how much context they have, if any. So that's always a little, it adds to my nervous feelings a little bit because I'm like, am I just going in completely cold? Are they going to be like, who is this guy and why are we doing this? Luckily, they did have some context. I didn't find that out, though, until after the performance had happened. But it's a lot of just kind of waiting around, running things over in your head. Also, I'm trying to be at least somewhat familiar with the movie series, right? Especially in this case, because this is the sequel. So there's already a full movie out. So, of course, I watched the original in preparation for this to kind of get inside that world and get inside that universe and understand maybe some references that I can make as connective material. But as an improviser, having too much time to run things over in your head or think through how things might go can be a little nerve-wracking, right? I kind of like to just be sprung into situations. Oh, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, cool. Let's make it happen. And then when it's actually time to do the performance, it's you have 5 minutes. You just enter into this room with these famous people and it's yo, you got 5 minutes to do your thing. go. It's like, oh my God. So that's always, it's always exciting, and it really does fire me up, and I like getting thrown in the deep end. So it's fun, but it's just this crazy 5-minute jolt of adrenaline. And then once I've left the room, it takes me a couple hours to kind of like come back down to reality and be like, okay, all right, I think it went okay. I think we're good. I think we pulled it off. But yeah.
Do you have to like fight the urge at all leading up to that to not try to be planning some of the rhymes of like the terms that you do kind of know might go into it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I tried. It's just so funny, man, because none of the shit that you plan ever comes out in the actual performance. So it's better. Yeah. The less you plan, the better, because anytime I thought like, oh, it'd be cool to reference this, now that's burned. Like that's, that's not going to make it in. So it's like, if I plan out too much dope shit, then that's a whole bunch of dope shit that's not going to actually make it in the flow. At least that's how it seems to happen for me. And I think that's a good thing, really, right? Because when you're improvising, you just want to be completely in the moment. You want to be like totally authentic. And so, yeah, it's for me, it's kind of hard to blur the line and if I start planning it out, then I'm writing it. And that's a whole different way of framing things and thinking about things. So, yeah, it's good practice for the whole like mindfulness thing and like the meditation stuff I like doing, to have those thoughts in your head that are like, yo, you're about to meet these famous people. Like, you got better do a good job. Shouldn't you think through what you're going to say? It'd be like to hear those voices and try to like, okay, let go of that, like I'm not going to listen to that. And I have varying degrees of success. My brain is definitely active in the hour or two leading up to going in the room. But
that's dope, man. You've done a few of these now, like the movie, promo stuff. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. It's awesome. And it's cool, too, because I don't watch a ton of movies in my regular day-to-day life. And so it's always an opportunity to really sit down and intentionally watch some films and get context. With Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I was even watching the original cartoon. Like, I downloaded a whole YouTube playlist. They're all up there, like 15-minute episodes.
That's tight.
In the square format, from the old TVs. And I was just watched like 12 of them on the plane.
You knew your shit for that one, man. You went pretty deep with some of those references.
Yeah, for sure. For that, I made note cards, and I really had to work on it, because there's so many characters and they're all important. Yeah. And they each have their own weapon, and they each have their own color. And I wanted to really make sure that I was respecting that universe, because it's deep, man. There's so much material.
Yeah. And that was the biggest like group. Like, all those characters were kind of there present.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I enjoyed getting hip for this one as well, watching the original, just, classic action movie vibes. Lots of like extended, 15, 20-minute shooting up scenes, stuff like that. So, but it was fun, man. And yeah, shout out to Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr. as well. Both incredibly kind, incredibly gracious, super down to, get down with what I do, and just made me feel welcome, and, lots of good smiles, good laughs, and good energy. So, that was part one, and this all happened on the same day. What was this, Tuesday? I think last Tuesday. Not that it matters. You're watching this weeks after we record, but it was just a couple days ago. And then so after that, went home, decompressed, and then that night, I had the incredible honor of being a part of the comedian Adam Ray's Dr. Phil Live. And if you're not hip to this, make sure you go get hip to it. Basically, Adam Ray is a great comedian, established comedian, famous in his own right. But he's been, for the past year or so now?
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer.
A little longer, yeah.
It's really taken off recently.
Yeah, so he's been basically impersonating Dr. Phil with full makeup, and like he looks just like Dr. Phil. And he has also really copped so many of the like nuances and mannerisms, obviously the tone of voice, but also like just even the body movements. Like, he's really nailed Dr. Phil, and it's incredible. And he has the support of the real Dr. Phil, which we now know officially, because I guess the real Dr. Phil appears in his Netflix special, right?
Yeah, and that just dropped maybe a week before you did this.
Right.
And that was the first time Phil and Phil had seen each other face to face.
Damn, the meeting of the Phils. But man, it was epic. I had watched, some clips, just to get ready of the Dr. Phil Live thing. So I knew it was going to be really awesome. And, I was super excited to be involved with it. But I had no idea it was going to be as epic as it actually turned out being. It was at the Comedy Store, which is a legendary club in Los Angeles. And I hadn't been there for many, many years. I think I had only been there once before, actually, and it was way, way back. I was like maybe just a year or two out of college when I went there for a comedy show with some friends, but hadn't been back since. So it was really cool to be in that room. And yeah, I'm telling y'all, man, this is the craziest green room I've ever been in. The other people that were there to be a part of the show, Jay Leno. I mean, come on. Whoa. Wayne Brady, one of the greatest improvisers of all time. Tony Hawk, who you know from Flow State, among other places. Greatest skateboarder of all time, Tony Hawk. Jaleel White was there. Urkel was in the flesh, and Brad Williams as well, another great comedian. And that's just that's not even everybody that was there and that was hanging out and that was a part of the show. Adam Ray has an amazing team that helps him put this show on consistently. But those were some of the special guests that were in the house for this particular night. And it was just incredible to be a part of and to be back there hanging with some of those people and just listening in on some of the conversations that were being had and trying to soak up some of the magic because just so much talent in that room and so many people who inspire me and have inspired millions, in so many different ways. So to be able to brush shoulders with them and actually to be a part of the same, production as them was just like an absolute honor. Like I was just so taken aback, and humbled just to be there in that space with those people. And what stood out to me, because everybody killed it, the whole show was incredible. I wish that I'm actually excited for the video to come out because I was, everyone is a surprise, which makes that even crazier. Just imagine being an audience member and having no idea that Jay Leno, Wayne Brady, Tony Hawk, et cetera, are all going to come out on the stage that night. Must be just electric. But because everyone's a surprise, I was backstage the whole time, so I wasn't really out in the audience seeing the show in real time. I wanted to be, and I was occasionally able to listen from behind the curtain, and but it's a little crammed back there, so I wasn't hanging out there the whole time. I was in the green room for a lot of it, but I'm excited to actually see the whole show. My family was in the house because they were visiting for Thanksgiving, so they were out in the audience and just absolutely loved it. Said they were just dying of laughter the entire night. So I'm excited to actually watch it in full. But it was everybody killed it. The crowd was amazing. I went out and I did like a 5-minute freestyle. I got a word from Dr. Phil. Oh, they had this dude there in full makeup dressed up like the Grinch because it was a holiday special. And so Dr. Phil gave me a word. The Grinch gave me a word. Then I grabbed a handful of words from the audience. And then we ran a couple beats and I just freestyled off top. And the crowd was so hyped, just very electric. They blew up at every incorporation of the words. It was just what you want from that kind of thing. And it was epic, man. Shout out to Adam Ray. I'm so grateful that he reached out and thought to include me in the show. And the biggest, takeaway for me was just the kindness in the room, right? That's what was so magical, was like everybody was so nice and everybody was so warm. And sometimes you hear about these big celebrities and you'll hear stories, rumors, etc. Oh, yeah, that guy's kind of a jerk. Oh, yeah, he's amazing, but, you don't really want to spend time with him, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes, there's that whole saying that's somewhat cynical that says, don't meet your heroes, right? Because you're not going to like what you learn about them. But, man, this was the antithesis of that saying in every way imaginable. It was just like, everybody was striking up conversations with everybody else. It was all just like positive reinforcement. Everyone was saying, oh, you killed that. Amazing job, So I just love to see that, man.
Yeah, no, it was so refreshing. Like, even amongst everyone that you listed, most people weren't that familiar with each other in terms of like personally. Not to my knowledge, like it was kind of just everyone getting to know each other in there. And it was just like the most relaxed, like fun-loving like room the whole time, and just the scenes that you'd see in there was just blowing my mind the whole time. It's like all of a sudden you got like Brad Williams, comedian, and the Grinch like taunting Tony Hawk to do like a kickflip to impress Jay Leno, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was so random. Somebody kept saying that. I think it was the cook, the guy there was a guy there that was catering, and he was like, "This is so random," and I was like, "Yeah, this is pretty random, man. This is so again, when I talk about doing the movie opportunities and being able to collaborate with people who don't rap, right? Like I'm collaborating with people who don't do hip hop so often, and this really exemplified that. From pro skater to comedian to late night host and all in between. So really a lot of fun. And
it was like, it's all improv. So that's what's also cool. Like you're not the only one who doesn't really know what's going to happen when they go out there,
Right.
So also that might kind of add to the relaxed like vibe somehow, because honestly there's like the run of show is kind of like go out there, find out.
Yeah.
So that worked for you, man.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I love that. Yeah, it's cool. And it's set up like the Dr. Phil show, sort of. Like it's set up like a talk show.
Yeah.
Loosely. I mean, you'll see. If you haven't seen, then you'll see if you watch it. But yeah, it's less prepared than talk shows, in my experience. Because I got to go on the Ellen show, and I was on Jennifer Hudson. And for those, they at least like they'll do like a pre-show interview to basically like more or less map out what the conversation's going to be. And there's always room for improv. And I think when really famous people go on those shows, they just start improvising immediately, and they probably don't even have to do the pre-show interview. But whenever I go on, or people who are maybe there's more uncertainties for the production crew, like, how is this person? Are they media trained? What's going to happen? Et cetera, et cetera. They kind of map it out. And so this is less prepared than, I'm sure, the actual Dr. Phil show.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Ray and, all those comedians, I mean, it's just, they're like top of the line. I mean, Wayne Brady. So yeah, Adam Ray, like usually or Dr. Phil, I should say, typically has like an idea of what he's going to do with for like each guest.
Yeah.
But the guest, they're completely freestyling, and so is Adam, to be honest. And it's just like so cool how smooth and hilarious it is.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I love that energy. And also shout out to the team and everyone involved in the production, because when I say it's less planned out than a talk show, I only mean in the sense of like the actual improvisational material that's coming from the performers on stage. The only way that you can have a scenario where everything can be completely improvised by the talent on stage is if the team is incredibly dialed in. So from that perspective, they know exactly what's going down. That the stage is decked out, looks amazing. Everything is happening right on time. Everybody's getting pulled out of the green room right on time. Everybody's getting cued out there. Everything is just like running to a T. And so, I always appreciate that, because for me and for us when we're on tour, it's the same thing. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, where it's like control the controllables, to a really high level of professionalism, so that all the actual material can be completely improvised, and you can do that safely because everything else is being handled.
Yeah, they had that production dialed.
Yeah, it was really sick. So yeah, man, anyway, epic day of getting out there and collaborating with people who are doing amazing things and inspiring me. And yeah, I'm always inspired by the audience that I get to collaborate with, and that day was just was really special. So hell yeah.
So dope.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Dope. Last episode I had mentioned, like, we pulled up the F1, like, Monaco older clip from the documentary where they were kind of touching on flow state.
Yep.
I've got another one, dude.
Hell yeah.
This one's a classic that most people have seen probably, or bits and pieces. It's Bruce Lee's Be Water interview.
Hell
plus like an additional part, which I wasn't that familiar with, I think really works for this.
Yeah.
So I pulled that up here. And like I said last time, I want to keep doing this. If anyone has any clips or anything in mind that kind of embodies flow state, send them our way. We'll check it out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this one is Bruce Lee from the Lost interview, it's called, because apparently, I learned this today, they like lost that footage for like damn near 2 decades.
Damn.
Yeah, filmed in 71, didn't air until 94, and then thank God, because it's pretty legendary.
That's crazy. Hell yeah.
Here we go.
To me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do, and you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. So that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the... You think?
Yeah, this is very un-Western, this attitude.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Like that, you see?
Oh, I see. I get the idea. I get the power behind it.
Wow. Woo! Damn. That's legendary, man. Shout out to Bruce Lee, the teacher. Man, just his delivery, too, is so epic.
That's what I get from it, too. It's he's saying, he knows that he's dropping some real, philosophical, money lines here, important.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's clearly thought about this stuff. It's not random. He's kicking it with authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Epic, dude. Yeah, that's definitely a legendary clip. And I love what he's saying. And I think a lot of what he's saying resonates with me really heavily because it's similar to how I think about freestyling. Granted, some of what he says, I think, about the water becoming, the shape of its container, right, can be interpreted several different ways. So there's a lot of depth there. But when he talks about, the thing I like the most is when he talks about how, he's explaining that to him, martial arts is about genuinely and truthfully expressing yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And that's very difficult to do, and one has to train really hard in order to be able to express themselves authentically. And I love that. And that's how I try to think about freestyling as well. And I've talked about this quite a bit, where it's I practice, especially the fundamentals, but I practice everything having to do with freestyling as much as I can, so that those techniques are there for me instantaneously as soon as I need them in order to express whatever the message is that's authentically rising up within me. So I really, really resonate with that. And actually, it made me think of this thing that there's this great jazz pianist named Kenny Werner who wrote a book called Effortless Mastery. And this really relates to something that he talked about in the book. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically there was a section in the book where Kenny Werner is talking about an interview that he did. And the interviewer basically asked him hey, Kenny, if there was one thing that you could add to your playing right now, what would it be? And Kenny Werner said, more technique, just right away. And so the interviewer was kind of taken aback by that, kind of surprised, because here he is sitting with this, masterful jazz pianist who apparently has plenty of technique, right? Well above and beyond the average player's technique. And also Kenny Werner is this very spiritual guy. He's really into meditation. He's really into philosophical concepts surrounding music and practice and being an artist. And so, from the interviewer's perspective, it would seem like maybe he'd share something a bit more ethereal, a bit more difficult to define, maybe something about, connecting to the heart of another human, being a better storyteller, something more metaphorical, right? And so for him to just so quickly say more technique, it's a little jarring because it maybe at the surface, it seems a little cold, right? A little just oh, really? You just want to be able to play faster with more facility at the instrument, better articulation? Is that really the aim here? And so the irony is when the interviewer pushed back and was oh, really? Is that the goal, more technique? Kenny Werner said something to the effect of oh, yeah, of course. I always want more technique. Basically, why wouldn't I want to further declutter the channel between me and the muse so that I can express the deepest art more effortlessly, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is that he said, but basically explaining that having more technique serves to declutter the mind so that everything that's organically arising within you can come out smoothly and fluently. And so this makes me think about that a lot as well. I feel like that's what Bruce Lee is getting at when he's saying, in order to express yourself truthfully and authentically, you have to train so that all the techniques are right there, instantaneously accessible, so you can be in that flow state right? Because like the quickest way to get pulled out of flow state is when you hit up against a technical limitation. And that happens all the time for musicians and I'm sure athletes and people in all kinds of fields and crafts who are working hard to be really great at what they do. Inevitably, you will eventually come up against a technical ceiling, and it will reveal itself to you when you have an idea, intuitively reach for it, and then it doesn't come out the way that it was supposed to, right? So like if I feel a certain rhythmic cadence coming up in my flow and I grab it and try to go for it, but maybe it's a little faster than I'm used to and I haven't really practiced and trained at that speed, the words are going to get jumbled in my mouth and they're not going to come out correctly. And so it will be revealed to me where, my technical shortcomings are. And so that'll pull you out of that flow state, right? And sort of interrupt this like effortless flow of you authentically expressing yourself. And I love that he says also, that it's relatively easy to do this like cocky thing, right? That will impress everybody and make everybody just jaw drop and, this sort of like egoistic way of playing or performing, or I guess in his case, fighting or whatever word he uses to describe, him partaking in martial arts. Yeah, you can do that, but that is not the motivator for getting a lot of technique, right? Or at least it shouldn't be. And this is the oldest story ever told in music. There's always, the temptation to get a lot of so-called chops, right? Which is just like impressive technique. Like chops would mean like playing really fast on the drums, playing these really sick like double bass drum patterns, really insane, intricate coordination. Your right hand's in 5/8, your left hand's in 7/4, your right foot's in 9/12, and your whatever, all that stuff. And I'm not dissing. All of that is great. Like that's awesome, and it's amazing to be able to do that. And there may come a time where practicing something like that is appropriate to help you get over a certain hurdle. But for the most part, if you're just practicing like chops and like really mind-bending, fast, impressive things so that you can get on stage and just like slot them in this sort of rote way with the aim of like making people be like, holy shit, that was so fast, then I think in many ways you're missing the point, right? The purpose of music is to communicate and to express yourself. Just like Bruce Lee is saying in this clip, the purpose of music is to express yourself truthfully, not just to do something hard because it's impressive. And so I think that was such a good reminder right there too about the true motivation for training hard and gaining technique. And I think it's important too because sometimes, I would come across people on my musical journey who would be of the belief that, if they practice too much, it's going to get in the way of their ability to express themselves authentically. And I don't agree with that personally. I think I agree with what Bruce Lee is saying here and what Kenny Werner was mentioning in the book, that having more technique is never going to get in the way unless your ego makes it like the forefront of what you're trying to do every time you're on stage. But if it's just there to serve you, so that you can express yourself more colorfully and have more options available, right? Techniques are like having more colors on the palette for a painter. They're just options. So as long as you're not forcing them in just to impress people and feed your own ego, I think it's a great thing. So yeah, I really dig that clip, man.
Same. I love that he talks to just like about how, to express yourself honestly, that allows you to make decisions like that without like being cluttered by, this like ego thought or something like that. But and that's what like everyone says a lot about a lot of different things. Be yourself, at the most basic form. But I like how he talks about it's just like not easy. Like that's what you have to train to do.
Yes.
Is being that. Like you can just say that and that's a great thought. But like if you really think about it, it's a really difficult thing to like allow yourself to do so.
Absolutely, dude. Yes.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because the mind is just constantly feeding you all these thoughts, random thoughts constantly. So many of them negative, many of them repetitive, and many of them just coming from your own ego, like, and so that clouds up your view of who your authentic self even is. And it takes hard work just to even like quiet some of those voices down for long enough to even be yourself.
Yeah. To like maintain, to be sure that you're like acting for the right purpose. So for this, it might be just to, like fight at the highest level. And that's what he was saying too. He's like, when I nail that, the punch, it comes without thinking. It's like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the be water thing too. It's like water gets put in a cup and it is the shape of the cup. You don't fight that.
Yeah.
So cool, man.
Really awesome.
It's a classic for a reason.
Love that.
Yeah, I guess that's his only English television interview ever. So
Oh, no way.
just, he really gave us everything there in the one he did. So that's awesome
Epic. Shout out to
man.
Bruce Lee, man. Super inspiring.
for sure.
Hell yeah. Okay, I want to answer some questions from you all. Shout out to everybody that's been tapping in, watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite podcast streaming site. We appreciate you so much. And as always, I want to answer some of your questions. If you have questions for future episodes, harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod is where to send those in. So without further ado, we got a question here from Sam M. Let's check it out. Sam says, what has being a freestyle rapper taught you as an entrepreneur in terms of being able to adjust on the fly in business and life? Awesome question. I think there are so many life lessons in learning how to freestyle, really in learning how to improvise on any instrument. But, I'll speak specifically from my perspective as a freestyler in trying to answer this question. Yeah, so many life lessons. And I would say this too, not all of them have yet transferred into the other aspects of my life. So sometimes I'm able to recognize a lesson that I've learned as a freestyler that has really potential application as either an entrepreneur, as you mentioned here, or just, trying to be the best human I can be in my day-to-day life. And I might be really comfortable with that particular lesson as it applies to freestyle, but still very much a work in progress when it comes to applying it outside of freestyle. So I just drop that little disclaimer here first and let you all know that it's a constant work in progress, right? But I mean, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with one of them here, and just you mentioned, the ability to adjust on the fly. That part is huge, right? Freestyling and improvising is all about being in the moment, right? And expressing your authentic self. I mean, it's actually crazy how much this ties back to the Bruce Lee thing. Being an improviser, you have to be water, right? And, stretching that metaphor a little bit, it's like the water can't, the water takes the shape of its container every time, right? The water can't show up and be like, today I'm a cup today. And they're like, yeah, but we're putting you in a bowl. No, I'm a cup. I can't be in the bowl, It's like, it doesn't work that way, right? The water just naturally takes on the shape of whatever container it's in. So, speaking metaphorically, it's like the water has to be in the moment and it has to be completely open to whatever the circumstance happens to be. And so I think that's kind of, from my perspective, some of what Bruce Lee was maybe hitting on when he's talking about being water, right? Is that you have to show up completely open and really be in the moment and not try to force, the square peg in the round hole. And so often in life, we do try to force that square peg. Like we do, myself included. I show up on a certain day. It has to be this way. This is how it has to go down. And we have an idea for, how we want the day to go. Or maybe there's something really important, like when I'm going to go do one of those movie things. And oh my God, I'm going to go freestyle for, all these famous actors. It has to be good, and I have to nail the dismount and I have to get all the words and I can't mispronounce any of the words and I have to remember blah, 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 all these things. It's kind of like I'm showing up being like, I'm the cup. I'm the cup, I insist on being in the shape of a cup. And sometimes you show up and it's a bowl. So what are you going to do? Right. And so I think that's one of the biggest lessons, man, that I have learned from just improvisation in general, is you have to be open. You have to really be in the moment. You have to be listening. And that's another thing. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but and I actually referenced it earlier in this episode, talking about how all the lines I plan out, they usually don't make it into the final performance. It's a similar thing when you're like in a cypher with other rappers. There's this tendency, like when the mic is getting passed around, like sometimes I'll be thinking of my first line, right? I'm like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna kill it, man. I'm gonna say this. I should say it this way. You start planning it out, mapping it all out. So every single time I do that, by the time I get to my performance, the mic gets passed to me and I try to do what I was planning on doing, I always flub it. Like literally every time, it seems. I don't know if I've ever actually executed it. And even if I didn't flub it, like even if I didn't make a mistake, it didn't have the impact that I wanted it to have, right? It was actually just a distraction from what was supposed to be happening, which is improvisation. And so as long as the mic's going around and you're in your own head planning what your first line is going to be, you're not listening, right? You're not listening to anybody else. You're not actually there. You're not in the moment. You're just stuck inside your own head. And so I think this really pertains, as an entrepreneur in business and in life, to be open, right? To be listening, to be paying attention to what's going on, like being mindful, not being so stuck in your own head, trying to plan for a future that you really can't predict anyway, right? You might waste all this energy trying to plan for a future that doesn't end up arising the way that you thought it was going to. And then, that just took you out of the moment that you were in that whole time leading up to that future moment, right? So I think it's really, really important. And if you're in the moment and if you're paying attention and if your antenna are up, you're going to be able to pivot. And so often in life, that's what's required, right? And, you ask about entrepreneurship. I mean, look at what happened in 2020, right? With COVID. Like, the only businesses that were able to survive were the ones that were able to successfully pivot. Like, that was an insanely difficult time for everybody. And, especially I think for small business owners in many ways who, had to basically either pivot or die, right? During that time, their businesses, of course. So yeah, again, like nobody saw that coming, right? Nobody could have planned for that. And that will continue to happen. Hopefully not such drastic things, but all the time there are things that come along that we weren't anticipating that will require us to pivot and make some kind of change. So I think that's really one of the big takeaways from freestyling that applies to my life. Another one too that I would share is the need to commit, right? And it's funny because it's like, wait, commit, but you just said that you got to be open. You can't commit to being the cup if it's a bowl. And it's like, I know, dude, this is one of those crazy dichotomies. So many of these things, I feel like when we talk about art and creativity, there's kind of like this double-edged sword almost, right? It's like the same thing as like, technique shouldn't really be the aim, right? Like it should be self-expression. And then it's like, self-expression is only possible when there's technique, And so this is similar to that too. Like we have to be completely open. We have to listen. We have to be in the moment. But once that idea arises organically in us, I feel we have to commit fully and wholeheartedly. And that's exemplified in freestyling, even just looking at a basic setup punchline, which I talk about all the time. You have to commit to the target word, right? If the target word is going to be mug, you have to lock that in. You see it arises naturally, and you commit to it. So now that idea exists, you lock it in and you give it everything you have, right? Open up my chest, show my heart for the love, wake them up like the caffeine out the mug. And you lean into that. And whatever the idea is when you're improvising, you commit to it fully so that you can deliver it wholeheartedly. And I think that applies in life as well, right? We do have to be open-minded. We have to be ready to pivot when that's necessary. But we also don't want to just be bouncing around, just skimming the surface on a million different things and never actually committing and seeing something all the way through. So that's where that sort of commitment lesson comes into play. And that's what I love about freestyling too, is each little couplet, each rhyming couplet, each little setup punchline couplet is kind of like a microcosm of this being in the moment and being open, but then committing to the idea and seeing it through. It's like I'm in the moment looking for what to reference, and then I see camera. And then I commit to camera and I make a nice little piece, a nice little 2-line couplet out of camera. And then I open back up while that's happening and look for what the next idea is going to be. So it's like this constant oscillation kind of between being completely present in the moment and then like locking in and committing to that idea and seeing it through.
That's interesting. Yeah, like Bruce Lee, when he was talking about it, it's almost like the pursuit to be perfect, like front of mind is not the way. Like the only way to be is to, it's out of mind.
Yeah.
And he was talking like that's how he can get like the full commitment on a punch. It's like, it's like, it's not even a thought. It's there, so different kind of punchline, I suppose, but.
hey, yeah, he's got the setup punch as well, dude. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
I love it. Great question, Sam. Thank you. Okay, we got another one here from Bailey S. What up, Bailey? Let's see. Is part of what fuels you the shock factor and winning groups over with your skills? Is it a motivator or more of a negative of what you do? Was there a certain point when that fell away completely and you just did it for you? Awesome question. Yes, I think I am definitely motivated to a degree by winning the crowd, for sure. I think the way I like to think about that, though, is, again, I view music as a means of communication, right? And a means of expression. I think that in many ways, art is a mode of communication, right? Not just music, but like if you paint on a canvas, you're communicating something through what you paint on that canvas. And even if you are just painting for the love of it in your own studio and, you know, that particular painting never gets hung on the wall of a museum or shared at an exhibit or even seen by anybody else, I still think the artist communicated something from within themselves when they did the painting, right? Even if nobody ever sees it. So it's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it make a sound? In this case, I would say, yeah, you know, it still makes a sound. You know, the sound wave still emanates from the falling tree, even if there's no ear to receive it. And I think it's similar with art. You know, even if you create something that never gets shared in your lifetime, you're still communicating through that art. And so often with me, I'm actually communicating live in front of an audience in real time. So that really hits for me personally, the whole concept of viewing art as a means of communication. And so for me, my aim is to connect with the audience, right? I'm standing up there on that mic or even just going a cappella for Gorilla Bars and I'm pouring my heart out trying to connect. You know, that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to communicate something that's in my heart and in my mind that has been inspired by the audience that's right there in front of me in real time. And so I want that connection to be made. And, you know, I think like we all know how it feels when you're just talking to somebody trying to communicate and you can tell they're just spacing out, right? Like you could tell they're not listening, their eyes are somewhere else. You just feel it and you know you're not actually making that connection. And that usually doesn't feel very good, right? It's like, damn, all right, well, whatever. We'll talk later, I guess. And so it's similar when I perform, you know, it's like I'm trying to communicate and I'm trying to connect and I can tell when I'm not connecting, you know, there's times where I'm doing the best I can in the moment, but for whatever reason, it's just not connecting with that audience and you can feel it. And it really is a similar feeling. And so when that's happening, you know, I'm taking it upon myself in that moment to try to figure out how I can shift and how I can do something that might connect, you know? So yeah, I think, you know, for me, it would be less about like just getting the shock factor, which is maybe more of that kind of like egoistic kind of cocky thing that Bruce Lee was talking about. Like, I don't want the shock factor just for the shock factor per se. Although, to be completely honest, I'm sure part of my ego does really want that, you know, and if I'm being real, like I do enjoy external validation. I love getting a pat on the back and a thumbs up. Hey man, great job. You're really great. It makes me feel awesome inside, you know? But I think that's a bit more toxic, you know, especially in the long term, if I got too swept up in that. And look, we all have egos and it's okay and they're necessary, right? But learning to have a healthy relationship with your ego is crucial. And that's a lifelong process, I think, for all of us, certainly for me. So I think it's really positive for me as a creator if I can shift the focus away from I want to shock crowds and get the big double thumbs up to like, no, I want to communicate effectively. Like I want to feel from the audience that I have connected with them. And the only way in which I really know that I have connected with the audience is when they show it, you know, in some way, shape, or form, or send an energy out that I'm able to feel and receive back. And so for me, that's why I want to win the crowd over, right? Not just to do it and be like, oh, I'm amazing, but hopefully to connect with them in a very real way. So yeah, it
kind of feels like you could want it, but it depends on what your reason for it is. Because, like, to be honest, you know, a lot of that shock factor comes in. And that's like reinforcement that your performance is really solid. And, you know, that is a goal. You're a performer and you want the performance to be solid. So
exactly.
It's a signifier of that, you know?
Exactly. And we talked about this on the last recording, too. It's like there's an entertainer in me, too. You know, like there's an artist in me. But there's also an entertainer in me. And the entertainer is only really satisfied with the job they've done if they've won the crowd over. So I do, that is a part of who I am and what I bring to the table. But you also asked if there was a certain point when that fell away completely and I just did it for me. Yeah, I mean, I just do it for me all the time. Like in the morning, especially if I have the house to myself, I'll just be bouncing around from room to room, often freestyling, just for me, no audience. And I love it. And it feels amazing. And, you know, it's just very exploratory. And it's just like I'm trying out different rhythms and things that just feel really good to me. And sometimes I feel like, and granted, I'm not the best judge of it because I'm doing it in real time, but sometimes I feel like it's some of the best material, you know, when I'm just bouncing around from room to room with no external goal, right? I'm just doing it for the love. And I think that's really, really important to maintain, especially for those of us who are fortunate enough to, like, you know, do our craft full time as our job. Like, I feel so privileged to be able to be a full time, like, professional MC, and I don't take that for granted at all. And I think one of the things that's really necessary once, you know, somebody moves into that role where it's their career and their job, to try to maintain, like, sacred times where you're just doing it completely for you. And I would say also that there are times where on the bandstand, so to speak, or in front of an audience, I've actually gotten into a space where I kind of forgot about the audience momentarily, and I was just doing it for me even then, right? Even though there was an audience. And sometimes that can be incredible too. Like, I think about the second collaboration I did with Beardy Man out in Europe, and it was like a small room situation. The video's up on my YouTube channel, so you guys can check it out if you haven't seen it. But there were a couple parts like where it was a really up-tempo jam that Beardy Man had cooked up. It was really fast. And I just kind of closed my eyes and started rhyming. And I was just doing it like totally focusing on like my rhythm and cadence and just kind of like digging deep because it was a fast tempo. And so I knew it was going to be challenging even just to rise to the occasion and be able to freestyle continuously at that speed. So I had my eyes closed and I was just going and going. And it was like, it was this big crescendo inside of me, and my voice was getting louder and louder and more expressive, and I just felt this thing building, and my eyes are closed, and I didn't even open my eyes until, like, I only was cued to open them because I heard the audience like, woo, like everyone was like yelling. I felt like the energy wave come back, and then I opened my eyes. It was funny too, I had shifted like 3 feet over. I was like disoriented. I was like, where am I? And everyone was just like going crazy together, and man, that's special, you know, that's really magical because that's like that whole thing of, by going in my own little universe temporarily, it actually was the best product for the audience too, you know, which Rick Rubin talks about that quite a bit. That's kind of one of his things is, you know, he talks a lot about how when the artist ignores the audience entirely, that's the way to get to what will end up actually being the best art for the audience, right? And he says that from what I've heard, it seems, and I don't want to speak for him, I would love to talk to him about it, but it seems like he kind of feels that is true 100% of the time, that is the way to get to the best stuff, is to ignore the audience. I don't know if I agree with that completely, but again, I would love to talk with him. Oh, I would be honored to sit and talk with him at all because he's a freaking legend and he's amazing. But yeah, for me, I think that some of the communication stuff that I'm talking about can benefit from me like really being there with the audience and aware of the audience. So I like to have a back and forth with the audience, and I think the entertainer in me really enjoys having that audience awareness as well and being able to pick up on their signs and find ways to connect with them. But I definitely dig what Rick Rubin is throwing down as well. And I think that moment that I felt with Beardy Man sort of exemplified what he's talking about, where it's like the best thing to do was just to go inside my own world there.
I've heard probably Rick Rubin and other artists talk about that idea of like, you know, are you doing it for the audience or not? And a lot of times it's in the context too of like, especially with Rick Rubin, he's been a part of so many game-changing, you know, projects in music and different genres, and it's like the audience never knew they wanted like the Beatles to make Sgt. Pepper like until you gave it to them. So it's like, you wouldn't be able to access that type of thing always if you were, you know, motivated by just what's already out there, what's popular.
100%. Everything that's ever been like completely groundbreaking, kind of, there was no precedent for it. So it's like, and a lot of it was controversial when it first came out, you know, and then in hindsight, it's like, oh, it's a classic, you know. So
I'm curious with this last part here, real quick. Like when you first were freestyling in front of people, so you've mentioned like some parties, you mentioned like the show that you got put on for it was like a fundraiser or something at that theater.
Oh the Aladdin,
Was there like a learning curve there though? Like when you first, even at like a house party, were you kind of trying to do like the cocky, like flamboyant thing, like Bruce Lee was talking about it all, just to like know what would hit more so than you're inhibited by that now?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to be dope. You know? For sure. Like, I was definitely trying to do a good job, and not embarrass myself. I was trying to say something ill, and I think we're all trying to do that to a degree, and definitely as MCs, and that's one of the things that's really special about hip hop and MCing is there is this braggadocious component that is baked into the culture of MCing, and that's one of the beautiful aspects of it. Like being a rapper is about being able to grab the mic and say some clever shit that makes people go, "Oh, damn,"
But to keep it like from your own like true voice, though, right? Like
exactly. And I think for me, like sometimes I'm trying to think what my version of just like doing the really cocky thing is. I think it would be like just going like insanely fast but saying nothing for no reason. Like when the beat didn't call for that. Like if it was like a mellow jazz beat and everybody's just vibing, but then I'm like, flip out the tip of the rip, like it's just like start doing something like that. That's where it's just like, okay, dude, like, yeah, wow, that was really amazing,
Yeah. You talk about it in jazz too, like, you could do too much on the drums with like the fills or something and it kind of throws everyone off.
Yeah, so often it's not what's called for, and then to Bruce Lee's point, when it is what's called for, you want to be able to grab it effortlessly.
Sure.
And so that's why being able to do the fast stuff, like if I'm in the practice room, I might just do that, put on a slower beat and just rap it in double time over it for as long as possible. But that wouldn't be like the offering that I want to share with the audience.
Yeah.
That's just so I know, like in that split second moment when it is absolutely what's appropriate, then I know that I can grab it effortlessly and cleanly and I won't make a mistake.
Yeah. To me, I feel like it's like almost like a cringe thing though, in terms of not technique wise, but like if you're like saying a bar that kind of to you doesn't even like feel right, like I don't say this, like that's like, well, where am I going with it? Why did I say that? That's
a good point too. Yeah, like sometimes the actual subject matter is inauthentic. Like, yeah, definitely back in high school, it's kind of like on Good Kid, Mad City, like the song Backseat Freestyle. Mm-hmm. That was like the first single I think that was the first single that came out from that project, or at least it was the first video I saw, and I remember thinking like, yo, this is a banger, but like, yo, is Kendrick kind of like is he selling out a little bit, like because it was just like such a like it was like big 808s on the beat, and he was just flexing. I pray my dick get big as the Eiffel Tower, and he's always been a vicious MC for as long as I was aware of him, but I'd never heard him with that level of just like just raw kind of like braggadocio, flexing about like that type of thing. So I remember being like, oh, wow, like this is ill, but like, I wonder what's happening with this. And of course, it's the most genius thing ever because within the narrative of that album, it's Backseat Freestyle. And right before it, it's like his homie coming to pick him up. And he's like, yo, we got a pack of Black and Milds and a beat CD. Have your freestyles ready. And that's him at like, I can't remember if he's 16. I think he's 16 years old in the story of that album. He's portraying himself as 16, I think. So yeah, 16-year-old in the van smoking weed, freestyling with the homies. Yeah, you're going to say, I pray my dick gets big as the Eiffel Tower, right? Yeah. That's the energy of that. And so there were definitely times, I would say, like in high school when I'm ciphering at a party and like we're just experimenting with alcohol and drinking and all that, and there's girls around, and I want to be the macho guy and I want to impress everybody in that way when it's like, I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really who I am. And I'm really proud of who I am and I love who I am. But at that point, when you're young like that, there's a lot of pressure to be the man, and to impress by saying some stupid stuff about like, oh, I'm getting all these girls, I'm doing all this shit. It's like, no, you're not, dog. No, you're not. I'm making all this money. Dude, you don't even have a job. Like, we're 14, bro. Like, what? No, you're not. If you have any money, it's because your parents gave it to you. Like, that is some silly ass shit. And so and I feel like, there's MCs that are adults that continue doing that, And so it's like, all right, and no diss and to each their own. But yeah, that to me is where it's like the authenticity is really key. I don't want to say something on the mic that I don't like really agree with.
For sure.
Yeah.
That was the third single on that, by the way.
Oh, okay, word.
Recipe, swimming pools, and then that. But,
that's right. Okay, for sure.
That's cool though, because like it could happen sometimes. You're like, what is this new like subject matter? But also sometimes like with him, it was part of a narrative.
Yeah.
Or with another artist, sometimes they'll just drop an album that's totally different because that's like a creative like journey they just wanted to take real quick.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Super dope. Shout out to Kendrick. New album going crazy. Yeah. Woo. Damn, I'm loving it. All right. Let's see. Francis T asks, how do you remember the conversations that happened before your freestyle so well? I've heard you talk about memory palaces before, but that seems a lot easier with words than it does with remembering specific details from a conversation. Yes, great question. And I will say this too. I'm not a memory expert. It's something that's kind of new to me that I'm working on. But I have made a lot of progress in terms of being able to remember more information in my freestyles, which has been a lot of fun. Shout out to Jim Quick, who is a really brilliant man and talks a lot about everything related to the brain and learning and specifically memory as well. So a lot of my concepts have sort of come from reading his book, Limitless. But I would also say that with the memory palace thing, I don't actually usually use like a traditional memory palace, which like is where you imagine a physical location that you're highly familiar with, like let's say your childhood home, and then you kind of like walk through the rooms in your home in order. So like in my childhood home, we went through the back door. So then you're in this landing and then you go up and then you're in the kitchen and then you turn left and you're in the dining room, you turn left, you're in the living room, etc. And so then if you rewind back to the beginning, you can like put every item from a list in a room in your home, for example. So like walking through, like if I wanted to memorize my grocery list, it's like I go through the back door and in the landing is this big jug of milk. I'm like, oh, what's up, milk? And then I go walk to the right and then I go into the kitchen and sitting around the kitchen table are these 3 avocados and they're all like cheersing and they turn, oh, what's up, Mac? Oh, what up? The avocados in the kitchen. Then I walk into the dining room. For some reason, sitting around the dining room is all these chickens. I got to remember to buy chicken, you know? It's like chickens with like glasses on that look over at me and then they like pull out some swing blades because I got to get chicken cutlets. So that's a memory palace, to my knowledge, is when you actually walk through a physical place. I don't do that as much. But what I do use is the whole creative imagery. And as silly as it is, like picturing the avocados around the table cheersing or picturing the chickens pulling out the blades is a huge part of what helps with the memory. Because basically, if you can use your creativity and your imagination, you're going to be much better at remembering things. It really locks it in. And so, you know, side note, that's why kids are one of the reasons why kids are such good learners, because they're so tapped into their creativity and they just use their imagination freely. And they also blur the line between their imagination and reality. So a kid will see a cloud and it looks like a dragon and the cloud is a dragon and they remember that cloud, you know? So anyway, something to think about. The more you can incorporate your creativity and imagination, the better. So, and I'm going to get around to answering your question about the conversation specifically. But yeah, when I'm remembering a lot of words, it's usually like I'm creating some kind of symbol based on the word. So if somebody said time, I would imagine like a bling, like a diamond flooded Rolex or something like that, because that's memorable and it's bling and it's shiny. And it's like I attach that image to the person's right over their head, basically. If I'm freestyling in public, it's like now I just see that Rolex floating over that person's head. And I try to go from left to right in order if I can, but it doesn't always work that way. So Bruce Lee, you got to be water. You know what I mean? Sometimes somebody yells out from behind me, oh, grab that. 2 people over here. It starts getting real wonky. But still, I can basically imagine some kind of symbol that represents the word they've given me and attach it to their person. And then sort of like a memory palace. Like maybe this is a memory palace, but I basically just walk back through the audience, and as soon as I look at the person, it reminds me what they said to me, because I'm able to at least vaguely see that image over their head. So that's how I do it for the words, more or less. For the conversations, yeah, it's a bit more challenging. I would say I try to just bullet out things that seem cool to reference. So like if somebody shares a place that they're from, like if they're like, oh, I'm from Denver, Colorado. It's like, okay, bullet point number 1, Denver, Colorado. So I don't have to remember the whole conversation of how they got around to telling me that, but I can just remember they're from Denver, Colorado. And maybe I could make that into some kind of image, like the Rocky Mountains or something. I could just envision the Rocky Mountains, okay, Denver, Colorado. And then next they'd be like, yeah, and like I'm on a road trip, you know, with my dog, Ralph, you know? So then, okay, dog Ralph, you know, and create some kind of symbol maybe to remember that. Like a big dog standing outside the grocery store, Ralph's, you know, something like that. So, but even without the imagery, it's like bulleting. It's like I'm bulleting out like key phrases that I can point back to. And that kind of helps me pull in the conversation without having to remember like all the details of the conversation. But moreover, I think the best answer to this question really is you have to remember to remember. That's the biggest level up that I ever had with my memory was just remembering that it was important to remember. And that in and of itself goes so far because we, in this modern society, like so much of our memory is outsourced. Like we have this computer in our pocket that just knows everything all the time and is constantly accessible. You know, when I get in the car, I just use Google Maps, you know, and it's really funny. My family was visiting for Thanksgiving and my dad is like very tuned in to geography. He's very curious about it. So all the times that we're driving through LA, it's hilarious. He'll be like, "Oh, is this the Foothills Freeway? Does this connect? This goes east to west, connecting from. Does this pass through Eagle Rock?" And he's got all these questions, and it's hilarious because I'm just like, I don't know. I've lived here since 2008, but I do not know, you know. And so, you know, my dad came up in the era of maps, right, and compasses. Even like on GPS, some people from that era like to view it with true north, right? I just want to be on a constant straight line. It's just this nice little path. And as long as I can follow the blue line, then I'm going to make it where I'm going. And so, you know, I don't have to be aware of the overarching geography and remember how everything's connected. You know,
retain anything when you're using the GPS, man.
Yeah. Or remember how many like phone numbers you used to have memorized?
Yeah.
Like, dude, before cell phones, like I had so many numbers memorized, all the friends, you know, the girl that I had a crush on, you know, my dad's work, my mom's work, you know, all this stuff. Now, like, I couldn't even remember, like, my wife's phone number for so long when we were dating. Like, and she was pissed, like, rightfully so. Because, like, yeah, I do need to know that. Like, if my phone dies and it's an emergency, I'll need to be able to call you. I was just like, and I was like, that's impossible. Memorize a phone number? That seems so hard.
You still have your 7th grade, like, buddy's number. Memorize that.
Yeah. So yeah, and Jim Quick calls it digital dementia, which is because everything is constantly accessible, we never really have to use our memories ever. And so it just goes away, you know? And so, yeah, the biggest thing you can do is to motivate yourself to remember it. And luckily for me, when I'm going to do a freestyle performance, there's a lot of motivation to make sure I remember everything, right? Especially if I'm on stage in front of an audience. And I'm not perfect. I forget things sometimes, and there are workarounds and there are clever ways I can incorporate the forgetfulness into the freestyle, and that's great. You know, that's a really important skill as a freestyler. But my goal is to remember everything. And especially like, you know, doing the Den of Thieves thing when I'm in there, it's like you have 5 minutes to do this thing that's going to be big promo for this movie. Holy shit, I better remember what they're saying to me, you know? And just that alone, without any other techniques or without creating symbols, without making a memory palace, without doing any of that stuff. If you just tell yourself like, oh, antenna up, I need to remember what I'm being told right now, right? If you're meeting somebody important and they tell you their name, and you know, you can say it right back to them and just be like, I'm going to remember that. And you can think of somebody else you know that has that name, and that can help. But yeah, remembering to remember, man. That's the key.
Word.
That's
all
the
about
key.
like intention, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's hard though, because like it's so easy to get sidetracked.
Yeah.
In your head, you know, and then like immediately whatever you were supposed to store a second ago is gone.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Dope, man.
Hell yeah. Thank you for those questions. Amazing questions as always. I love answering them. You guys challenge me to think about all the stuff, man. You think about my techniques, my philosophies, my approach, my worldview, and it's really, really awesome. So I appreciate it. HarryMackOfficial.com/flowstatepod. Send us your questions. Also, if you rap, send us a video of you freestyling. I want to react to it, try to offer some advice if I can. And we have a fan freestyle here coming from Coley S.
Yeah.
Check this out.
I think we've heard from him once or twice before with some questions. So
Yeah, I recognize that name.
yeah, he sent it in a freestyle recently. Let's peep it.
Hell yeah.
Yo, here is my submission. This is my volition. I know that in this life that I am living, I am surely on a mission. This is dope like superstition. Stevie wonders where we went. Can't see, but I can feel what it meant. Serpentine is the dream, and my team is incredible. Cream gonna rise to the top. I hope it's edible. This is really beautiful. From my toes up to my cuticles. Fingertips dancing on the keyboard is beautiful. Let me fly. That's just what my spirit wants, I can't deny. The freedom that is rolling is deeply inside of myself. When I ride with my wealth, can't hide from myself. That's the way that we can build it. Nothing is ever gonna kill it. Shout to Harry Mack, you know that he's got game and he's been spilling it to anybody who is willing to really listen. He got gems for days and them gems, they fucking glisten. Let's go.
Woo! Damn. That was sick, man.
That was tight. That
was really dope. Wow. Shout out to Coley S. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Damn, man, that went hard, bro. That was really good. Really good. Man, I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking through what I really enjoyed about that. First of all, like, very dense rhyming, you know, lots of, and I mean like lots of rhyming words in quick succession. I don't think it was very rarely just like one rhyming sound per couplet. There were usually lots of internal rhymes or lots of rhymes put quickly right next to each other. It was very coherent. Like, it made sense what he was saying, like basically the whole way through. There weren't really like any issues of like syntax or being like, wait, what does that mean? It like all made sense. There were all these like thematic schemes as well, like talking about Stevie Wonder, I'm not blind, or I can't see it, but I feel it, you know, spinning off of that. And then some bars later, there was the fingers on the keyboard. It's beautiful. That was dope, man. That was really dope. There was also a lot of like really nice multi-syllabic stuff going on in there as well. So yeah, it was intricate, man, and it was dope, and it was just flowing really nice, smooth over the beat. That was fire. That was really sick, man. I really respect the work you put in on the free flow, and man, yeah. I mean, in terms of my feedback, I just would say keep going, man. Keep doing it. And yeah, like, do you have any tracks or anything like that? If you see this, you know, comment, let us know if you have your own thing already popping off, if you have any songs out or freestyle videos or whatever it is that you do. I'm also curious if he writes, because it sounds like he's freestyling like someone that also works at developing their pen. And I think, you know, that's something that I don't really talk about that often. That, you know, for the whole time that I was freestyling from like age 11 or whatever till even now, but certainly from like age 11 until I left for college, I was just as passionate about developing my pen as I was about freestyling. I was like writing verses that whole time. And actually for most of that, I thought that the written work was going to be like the main thing. And so I think I take for granted how much that helped. And a lot of the different schemes and things that I think about, A-B, rhyme inside a rhyme, this multi-syllabic stuff, a lot of the things that I hear this man doing in his freestyle, for me kind of probably came from the writing stuff, you know, and from really having the time to sit there and think about it and craft it perfectly or craft it the way that I wanted it to be, and then taking all that, and then it seeps into the freestyle steez as well. So so I'd be curious to know if this cat has any songs out or anything. But dude, it was dope, man. Really awesome.
How does that work in terms of like the writing translating over to the freestyling? Is it just getting more familiar with like putting together nice sentence structures and things like that? Like, yeah, I think it just seeps in through osmosis. Like, yeah, you learn those structures and you learn how like syllables fit into a bar, you know, when you don't have to do it in real time, you can really figure it out. Yeah. And I think having that, it's kind of like they recommend when you're learning chess to not play the 10-minute rapid where you have a clock and you only have 10 minutes to finish the game. Yeah. I still play the 10-minute rapid though, just I don't know, because I'm just used to it and I like it. But they suggest you play with no timer. So find like a friend who's down to play a game over the course of some days. Makes sense. And then you can really think through each move and know why you're doing it. So I think it's that, you know, it's like take the clock off the chess game to really figure out how all the shit can be put together. And then that can be immensely helpful when it comes to the freestyling side of it as well. But yeah, I don't know. That's such a good comparison, actually. That explains it right there, man. Hell yeah. Hell take your time with the chess, man. That's it. But shout out to Coley, man. Really dope, dude. Hope to keep hearing from you. And yeah, keep going, man. That was sick too, because there were no random words or anything. At least not visible to me. It didn't seem like there were at all. I think he was just going. And I like that energy, man, of the free flow. It was nice. Really nice, man. Great submission. To all the MCs out there, hit us with your videos. I want to see it. I want to react to it. I want to offer my 2 cents if I can. HarryMackOfficial.com/FlowStatePod. And then we also have a video of you here to react to yourself, man.
Yes,
I
yes.
love this one.
Beautiful. Hell yeah.
Yeah, this is from the Portland show. And the topic where you had to make a whole song out of it was POV of a person without technology.
Yes, I remember this, but I haven't watched this in a long, long time. All right, let's run it.
Word. Shout out to this video. The whole show's online, too. If anyone wants to, like, peep an entire show, that was an epic one.
Yes. Hell yeah.
All right, here we go.
Let me see what we got.
Such a cool venue.
POV of a person without technology. God damn. POV of a person without technology. Yeah, all right. Who gave this topic? Where's Annie at? Much love, Annie, I see you. We're gonna do this one for the people without technology. I love this shit, man. I knew y'all would challenge me. I feel very supported. Can we give this a shot, Portland?
Oh, there you are,
I said,
Dick.
can we give this a shot, Portland? All right, then, man, we're gonna get this. Yeah.
Shout out Jazz hyping the crowd with the claps.
There we go. We're gonna keep it on beat. Damn, I don't know how long this shit can last. All my friends say that I'm stuck up in the past. I don't pay attention to news or new policies. I don't use no goddamn technology. Whoa, said I don't know how long this shit can last. All my friends tell me that I'm stuck in the past. I don't pay attention to news or the policy. Say what? Say what? I don't use no goddamn technology. Yeah. I'm in my home. I'm in my zone. I'm pulling out my notebook. I'm about to write me a poem. Damn, I'm feeling hungry. I'm having these thoughts in my dome. Yeah, maybe I'll order some nope. I ain't got no phone. Yeah, I just don't use that. That is a true fact. Changing the game, how my heart prone. How could they call it a smartphone? I just be wondering that. I'm like, gee, I wonder. Cause they call that motherfucker a smartphone, but it seems to make everybody dumber. So I can't get with it. It makes me mad. I ain't got a phone, I ain't got an iPad. Yeah, I ain't never been a threat. Cause I can't even get up on the internet. Yeah, I get lit like candles in a vigil. I need some fucking food. Smoke signals. Yeah, I don't know how long this shit can last. All my homies tell me that I'm stuck up in the past. I don't pay attention to the news or the policies. Nah, I don't use no goddamn technology. Yeah, said I don't know how long this shit can last. All my friends tell me that I'm stuck way in the past. I don't pay attention to the news or all them policies. Nah, Portland, I don't use no goddamn technology. Nah, yeah. Without none of this shit they call the technological. Lots of things be feeling impossible. I'm trying to slay my colossal foe, I just don't use it. Yeah, so they be asking me how I hear music. Yeah, well I'm about to break it down real smooth, kid. Tell y'all what the truth is. When I wanna get loose and bring that heat, pick up a stick, start making a beat. Yeah, we about to turn it to a rave, man. I be tapping in the language of the caveman. H-Mack so exquisitely, I'ma take y'all back through history. Yeah, sometimes it leaves you abused with all of the technology we use. If I gotta go real far, I don't hop in a plane or a car, cause I feel like I don't really need this. I don't have a Ferrari or a Prius. Yeah, I use my thought, cause my mental never gets blocked. Plus I be loving the breeze. I'd rather go on a walk. Yeah, I'd rather lace up my shoes. I'm out here making my moves. I do not use no alarm. I got no reason to snooze. Yeah, I'm waking up in the morning. I'm writing my poems and my lyrics. Get the technology out of my face. I'd rather spit from the spirit. My God, yeah, I don't know how long this shit can last. All my friends tell me that I stay stuck in the past.
It's just a banger about no technology, dude.
News or the policies.
So hard.
I don't use no, I don't know how long this shit can last. All my friends tell me I'm stuck way in the past. I don't pay attention to the news or the policies. Nah, I don't use no goddamn technology. I feel the breeze. I'm chilling out by the trees. I don't need these. Cell phone just isn't my steez. Yeah, y'all best believe I got more tricks up my sleeve. How in the fuck do they make it look like a tree when it's a tower for 5G? What are we doing? This shit is so crazy. All of that bullshit, it don't even faze me. Mack, I'll be on it and I'm leaving y'all inspired. I don't use mics.
I forgot about this.
I said, whoa, I don't know how long this shit can last. All my people tell me that I'm stuck in the past. I don't pay attention to the news or the policies. Say,
Damn, they're on it, dude.
Portland, make some fucking noise.
Wow. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah. One more time. I don't use no God.
Hey.
What a show.
Hell yeah. That's great. That's hilarious. Wow, man. Yeah, I haven't watched that in years, I feel like. But that's awesome. I totally forgot about that. I don't use mics, and then it's such a cheat code because I didn't have to say anything legit for that whole part, and they were just like, "Oh, he's killing it!" But oh, that's fun, man. Wow, that was epic to relive that. That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, man. That was the Energy Exchange. So,
Yeah.
2 tours ago, and yeah.
Crazy.
How do you, if you have to critique yourself, what did you love about it? What did you kind of notice?
I mean, I thought I liked it, man. I thought it was just a banger. I thought it was hilarious, like the irony of the beat being so modern and then the message being like, I'm in the breeze. I'm just be loving some trees. And yeah, I thought, yeah, man, how the fuck do they make it look like a tree when it's really a tower for 5G? That's some apocalyptic shit. They have those all over LA, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather they make it look like a tree than just the tower for the 5G. So like, that's cool. But but yeah, man, no, it was fun, dude. I don't know. I liked it. One thing that I forgot was that I used to always go like 3 verses on all of those songs. Cause I was like, damn, I'm going back in again, dude. I'm really stretching out on this. But it was fun, man. And the crowd in Portland was super hyped. They were yelling it out. I don't use no goddamn technology. Yeah, it's fun, dude.
That was probably one of your first like biggest shows back to Portland since, you kind of blew up at that was the first one back and the crowd was epic.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest shows on that tour as well. Because there were only a couple shows that were like that. There was San Diego was like a 700 person room. This I think was also 700 or close to it. If I remember correctly. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at judging the size of crowds. But yeah, and then maybe like New York or something. There was maybe one more that was like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were in comedy clubs. So they were like in, 150 to 300 person rooms. 300 was on the larger size though, mostly like around 150, I think.
Yeah. And just tech like capabilities. Like this was like the audio was bumping that beat.
Yeah.
Which was different than like at the comedy clubs and stuff too. So yeah, just, I don't know. It's a different vibe.
Yeah, it was also crazy too because the room is like for raves. So they have like screens everywhere because they go like full visuals, like 360, like you're just in a box of screens.
Wild.
So we had the words just like everywhere. And I remember my friends from Portland being like, dude, the production of your show is insane. Like the way you have the words just surrounding everyone. I was like, I really can't take credit for that. This is just this one show.
I remember during soundcheck we were like, do we put them on all of them? Is this a bit much? I'm just like staring around at like, 40 different, insane like random words. That's cool though.
Yeah. And that's too where I think where we realized that we can't have a light background for the words. We had to have a black background.
Yeah.
For a while, because I think we ended up like making the black background on the fly for this show, right?
You're right, because there's so many screens.
Yeah, the room was just lit. The lights were just on. Like every time there was a word on, it was no longer a concert. It was like the end of the school dance when they're trying to tell you got to go home.
Forgot all about that.
Yeah, so that was really crazy. Also, I don't have in-ears, so I'm just using the wedge monitors, which probably seems just totally random and insignificant, but actually switching to the in-ears has been like a godsend for me not losing my voice because I used to lose my voice a lot more. So that I was proud of myself because this song is later in the set and the voice still sounded pretty strong even without the in-ears. But yeah, it's nice to go back down memory lane.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
We'll throw the link to the full show in the show notes, the whole Portland set.
Hell yeah.
One of my favorites.
Hell yeah. Dope. Well, goddamn. Another great solo episode of Flow State. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching, listening, and supporting the podcast. It really means so much to me, and we're really happy to be in here doing this. So without further ado, we're going to close this thing out the way we always do, but actually, this time around, I think we're going to do something pretty special. Check it out. Yeah, another episode of Flow State. Every time I'm in the session, I'ma go ape, and my voice stays influential. Special guest appearance from Lenstrumental. Yeah, I know we about to bring it together. When he spits off top, dog, he brings it so clever. I'ma run you back through everything that went down, so y'all can have the video sent now, right to your dome. I shine like chrome. Y'all know I'm getting loose when I'm all up in the zone. I kill it with celebrities, no exaggeration. A crazy day in LA with Mack collaboration. Had to break it down for everybody in the Den of Thieves. They about to catch on eventually. Speaking of thievery, these rappers, they be jacking my style. Makes sense, I've been rapping a while. Yo, I bring it together like tiles. We're making a mosaic. Yo, every time I rhyme on this mic, I'ma slay it. I break it down for all of y'all and drop the skills. I rock it ill. I locked in with Dr. Phil. I had to bring it to the people at the Comedy Store. How many fans got tickets for Anomaly tour? Better bring it to the stage show. We stay faithful. When I be spitting right up in the middle, they knowing the lyrics are fatal. I'm here to kill it. I spit hot like a skillet. 1 in a million, in fact 1 in 8 billion. I break it down non-stop, want the gold and choose me. I tell rappers be water, Bruce Lee. Yo, I take on the shape of my environment, spitting so many flames, better call firemen. Bring them in quickly, grab the mic, rip freeze. They don't have to second guess, he's popping up, yo, it's me. Back in the flesh, I'm rapping too fresh. I'm in the meditative state, when I'm rhyming I'm too great. No debate, Mack about to kill it when he spill it up the brain. Every time I rhyme I'm bringing flames. They be asking questions, what to practice. Grip the mic and I prove that I'm a savage. A tisket, a tasket, y'all know how it goes. I get loose off the mental when I'm spitting out these flows. They say, Mack, when you rhyming, you dominating. How do you remember all the conversations? It doesn't make sense, it seems like such a challenge. Do you have to build your own memory palace? Do you walk through your house, see the milk and avocados for your grocery list? When I flow, I be sick. Well, the truth of the matter with no exaggeration. To remember, you must use your imagination. Keep the inner child alive. You know I'm live when I be spitting off the top of this. I'm ready to take me a dive. I be dropping up out of the plane. When I be spitting, I'm bringing the flames off the brain. Never ever lost it, man. I bring it back. Fling the raps to hit harder. When it come to skills, I refuse to trade a barter. Underground sound out the sewer. They ask how freestyle techniques help as an entrepreneur. You gotta learn to pivot. You gotta learn to stay open. You can't have your ears closed when you all up in the cypher. Can't be planning out your first line. You gotta improvise in the moment to truly see your verse shine. So that's the lesson I'm applying to my life. I'm staying open-minded when I'm rhyming on this mic. I'm getting busy while I'm kicking it with passion. I see young freestylers and I'm reacting. I love to see them building when up in the building. I know how they feeling, I know they resilient. I know they'll be bringing in the future, they already are. Shining like stars, y'all know these lyrics we spitting are way above par. Yeah, I'm taking action, the Mack and his rapping. I'm never clashing when Lenstrumental pen tapping. We about to take all of y'all back to the classroom. We about to drop this record, it's gonna be a smash, dude. Matter of fact, we taking over the charts. Every time I spit, I gotta open my heart. Yeah, we got the pen scratching all up on the table. Rappers need to lay low, why? Cause I say so. Another classic episode, we changing the policy. Pens and the voice, yo, no technology. Hey, yo, we hardly even need these mics. We could do it in your classroom, that's all my life. We could do it at your lunch table in the cafeteria. I'm serving food for thought, I know the people out there hearing, bro. I break it down for all of y'all, you know I had to go, hey. Lenstrumental, your boy, Harry Mack, this is Flow State, what?
Crazy. Good stuff, man. I got it messed up at the end, but nobody's gonna notice that.
Dude, that was ill, man.
Just one take.
You're
That's
amazing, bro.
Appreciate it. Likewise, man.
So good, dude.
It's crazy.
That's dope, yo.